Welcome everybody to the Mayo Media Network. My name is Nick Giffen of Fantasy Labs, and you can find me on Twitter at Rotodoc. Today we're going to be talking about the Buschy McBusch Race 400. That's right, quite the name there, but it is taking place at Kansas Speedway this weekend. Kansas is a 1.5 mile track with variable banking in the turns. That means in the lower portion of the turns, it's 17 degrees banking. Higher portion of the turns, that is 20 degrees of banking. A 400 mile race, so that means 267 laps around the 1.5 mile track. So, with that said, we are going to need a couple of dominators in our DFS lineup. Additionally, there are a lot of tracks we can use that are similar or correlated tracks. The most comparable track to Kansas Speedway is Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It has very similar banking. Instead of 17 to 20 degrees, it's 12 to 20 degrees, but especially around that top, very similar. The other thing is, they both are on the older side of track surfaces for the 1.5 mile tracks, especially the 1.5 mile tri-ovals or quad-ovals. They're both tri-oval shaped, and they both have been repaved 2012 or earlier. So, two of the older 1.5 mile track surfaces there, similar banking, same shape, same size. So Las Vegas is going to be your most comparable track to Kansas. Now that said, there are some other tracks that we do want to look at, especially when we talk about the tire compound. So the Cup Series has used left side tires that were used at the Charlotte Oval races last year and the first Kansas race last year, and the right side tires that are being used for this race were used at the second Las Vegas race, the second Kansas race, and the second Texas race of last year, as well as the first Las Vegas race of this year. So that gives us a lot of tracks to look at when we are talking about similar tracks to Kansas Speedway and similar tire compounds. So that is what we're going to use this week. I'm going to get into the picks here. I'm going to give you a cash game pick, a tournament pick, a fade of the week, and we'll give you one bet as well. So let's dive right into it. My cash game pick is Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, $11,300 on DraftKings. He starts in the 32nd position because he had those issues in the previous race at Talladega. Right off the bat, they blew an engine on lap 1 there. So Kyle Larson starts 32nd. He won the Las Vegas race earlier this year. So in the most comparable track we have to Kansas, he won the most recent race. He also finished second at Atlanta and fourth at Homestead. And that's important because even though Atlanta and Homestead, I didn't mention the tire compounds or even really mention that they're similar tracks to Kansas, those are our only 3 tracks this year that we have run the 550 horsepower package. They're all 1.5 mile tracks. Just Atlanta has a really old surface, and Homestead is differently shaped and also has an old surface. So they're not quite as comparable to Kansas as some of the other tracks that I mentioned. They also have different tire compounds, but Las Vegas, Atlanta, and Homestead are the 3 tracks that use the 550 horsepower package, and he finished in the top 4 in all 3 of the 550 horsepower races this year. In 2019, which is the last time Kyle Larson raced at Kansas because he was suspended last year and fired from his team, in 2019, if we go back, he led 60 laps and had 45 fastest laps in the most recent Kansas race that he ran there. So also does well at this track. So Kyle Larson starting way back in 32nd. That gives us a lot of place differential potential, very safe play, and he should have a lot of upside with fastest laps, potentially even leading some laps. So I am not worried about Kyle Larson starting the back. I'm not worried about his price tag, especially in cash games. I think you're gonna almost be guaranteed a ton of place differential and a bunch of fastest laps at least. So definitely play Kyle Larson in your cash games. Certainly like him in GPPs as well. I mean, he has the upside to win this race, but he is my cash game play of the week. Moving over from the tournament side to from the cash game side to the tournament side, we have my driver tournament play of the week, Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch starts in the 9th position, and he's going to cost you $8,600 on DraftKings. And that's really nice because that is a lot of price relief from somebody like Kyle Larson, who's the most expensive driver this week. He is $2,700 cheaper than Kyle Larson, but has very similar upside. If we look at the races that used this right side tire compound, so the Vegas race earlier this year, and then Kansas, Las Vegas, and Texas, the second race from each of those three last year in 2020, Kyle Busch finished in the top 6 in all 4 of those races. He has a first, a third, a 6th, and a 5th in those 4 races there. So Kyle Busch, both the Kyles here this week are very good. Kyle Busch has done amazing on these right side tires. And if we include the left side tire compound as well, that also gives him finishes of 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 11th, and then a misleading 29th place at the second Charlotte Oval race last year. But still an incredible streak there for Kyle Busch on similar tires. He's one of 4 drivers, and the cheapest of the 4, with top 10s in all 3 of the 550 horsepower races this year. So again, that's Las Vegas, Atlanta, and Homestead. He's one of 4 drivers and the cheapest of the 4 with top 10 finishes in all 3 of those 550 horsepower races. And then again, that includes that 3rd place finish at Kansas's most similar track, Las Vegas, earlier this year. He led 56 laps in the 2 Kansas races last year, and that salary flexibility is awesome. You know, getting a driver that could potentially win the race and dominate a portion of the race for $8,600, oh boy, that's going to do a whole lot for your lineups. What it's going to do really with that salary relief is instead of having to drop down in the 5K range or really, especially in the 4K range, or even in the lower part of the 6K range, you may be able to do a more balanced approach. What that's going to do is that's going to get you a lot more stronger cars into your lineup instead of going with 2 drivers up in the high 10K or low 11K range. If you use Kyle Busch kind of as a second dominator, all of a sudden you can fit a really balanced lineup and get a lot of strong cars in your lineup there. So Kyle Busch, my tournament play of the week. Moving over to the fade side, let's fade Michael McDowell this week. Michael McDowell starts in the 3rd position and costs only $5,800 on DraftKings. So, you know, you think, oh, really cheap driver starting way up there in 3rd. He must be fast. Well, no, that's because his starting position was determined mostly from last weekend's Talladega race where he had a really good finish. That is a super speedway race where drafting is super important, just like the Daytona 500, which he won. If we remove those 2 races, and additionally remove the Daytona road course race, that means 3 of his top 4 finishes in 2021 have come at oddball tracks that are not similar at all to Las Vegas or Kansas or Atlanta even that we've talked about, or Homestead, you know, more normal tracks that we can compare to Kansas. 3 of his top 4 finishes this year at oddball tracks. The other top finish for him was at Homestead, which does count, but Homestead's differently shaped than Kansas or Atlanta. It's what's called a true oval, whereas Kansas and Atlanta are tri or quad ovals, more similar to each other in shape. Las Vegas and Atlanta. And he had finishes of 17th and 19th at those tracks. So not very good for Michael McDowell at tracks that are much more similar to Kansas. That means if he starts 3rd and he finishes, let's say 18th, which is the average of 17 and 19, he's getting negative 15 points right there in the place differential category. And he's only getting 18th place points for finishing position. So he's already going to be, you're already looking in the, you know, low teens or something like that for overall points. That's not going to cut it for a driver at $5,800. So, you know, Michael McDowell is just expected to go backward. If we remove those oddball races, you know, he's nowhere near the top 13 in the standings. He's 13th place in the NASCAR point standings right now. If we remove those races, he's back down around the bottom half of the teens or even in the upper 20s there. So, Michael McDowell is our fade of the week. Finally, for our DraftKings bet of the week, I'm going back to the Kyle Busch well here, and I'm going to bet Kyle Busch top 5 at plus 160. So the reason I'm making this bet is because if we look at these last 4 races with this current right side tire, Kyle Busch has finished 3rd, he's finished 1st, he's finished 5th, and he's finished 6th. So in the last 4 races on this right side tire compound, he has 3 top 5s in the last 4. That's 75% top 5 rate, but he's actually an underdog to finish top 5 according to these odds. So I really like Kyle Busch here, plus 160 to finish in the top 5. Additionally, I don't mind if you want to bet his odds to win. He's plus 1,200 on DraftKings to win. I certainly don't mind that. I don't mind plus 325 for a top 3, but I really like that top 5 because it gives him a little more cushion to be, instead of a winning car or a top 3 car, he just has to be a top 5 car, and you're still betting him as an underdog, but he has finished top 5 in 3 of the last 4 with this right side tire compound. So including the most similar race to Kansas this year, which is Las Vegas. So Kyle Busch, my bet of the week at plus 160 for a top 5 finish on DraftKings. That's going to do it this week for the Kansas analysis. Let me know in the comments down below who you think is going to win the race. What bets do you like? What fantasy plays do you like this weekend for the Buschy McBusch Race 400? Again, quite the name there for Kansas Motor Speedway. And that's going to do it. I am Nick Giffen of Fantasy Labs. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Rotodoc. I'll be tweeting out, little nuggets here and there of information that I always do every weekend. And make sure to enjoy the race, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Take care.